Cheers, Spencer. Just remind you to put phones on silent or if you didn't, to switch them off. Right, membership of committee.
Councillor Simpson attending in place of Councillor.
Everybody else is printed. Minutes of the previous meeting. Interest and lobbying. I'll start with Councillor Simpson. Councillor Pinnett.
I think we've had we've all had something on. I can't remember, but haven't we had something that has been put into the update? Otherwise, I haven't had anything. No, fair enough. Yeah, thank you.
No, I've nothing real. Item 4. This is a meeting that's recorded and going out live and blah blah blah. Permission of the public. 5. Public questions. Councillor Pinnett.
Thank you, Chair, for your permission to ask this question.
Yes.
And it's to do with the conditions that are applied by planning inspectors as a result of a planning appeal which the inspector allows. We've had an application in Kirklees which was won on appeal, and there was no condition applied by the planning inspector about wheel washing for lorries entering and leaving the site. And over the summer and indeed earlier, I've had a number of complaints from local residents, and in fact Councillor Hall was giving me a second-hand one just now of a similar nature, either mud or dust on the road. And what I'm asking is that we write to the planning inspectorate encouraging them to, on all large developments, to automatically put in a condition that will deal with mud from building sites, which does cause a problem at either time of the year. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to say, just to back up what Andrew's been saying, I was approached by somebody in Kirklees on Saturday morning who happens to be a family member who were complaining about it. So glad you brought it up, Andrew, and strongly recommend that we do something about this.
Okay, thanks.
It is a mess.
Thanks, Chair. We'll write to the planning inspectorate, and as officers we will make a more conscious effort to ensure that the conditions related to construction activity, if an appeal is allowed, are part of any draft list. They should be on large sites. I don't know the detail of why it wasn't, but between the inspectorate and officers we will try and make sure we pick that up in the future.
But
I think you've answered my question there. I was going to say, why wasn't it there in the first place?
I don't know the specifics, but it should be
automatically being carried over.
It's a logical thing on a development of that scale on a greenfield site.
Rather than build it.
Yeah. So it's a learning lesson for officers to pick that up.
Item 6, deputations petitions. Right, let's move on to planning applications. This is agenda item 7, page 11. And this is PPG 509 Leeds Road, Still Town.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Glenn Wakefield. I'm the case officer dealing with this application. Members will recall that this application came to committee in March of this year. It's already got a resolution to approve. Consequently, I won't go through the proposal in detail, but I'll just briefly outline the particulars of the site and what is proposed. The site is located to the east of Huddersfield Town Centre, off Leeds Road. It's in an area, as you can see on the aerial photograph here, that is mainly commercial in nature, although there are some residential properties off Leeds Road here to the south. The site currently comprises of a number of sports pitches, associated buildings, access and parking facilities, and this provides facilities for Huddersfield Town Football Club and also in part for Syngenta Sports and Social Club. Part of the site also includes this scrubby area of land to the north-east here. The Huddersfield Brook Canal is to the north, which is a designated local wildlife site in the local plan. The existing pitches are allocated as urban green space in the local plan, and this area of scrubby land here forms part of a much wider area which is included as a priority employment area in the local plan. The applicant proposes to demolish an existing building on site, which is in the centre of the site there, replace that with a purpose-built 3-storey building which would incorporate training, therapy and administrative facilities. Also involve reorientation of pitches and associated training facilities, the erection of a new viewing stand, which, if I move it onto the plan here, will be located there, adjacent to the new building. The erection of some ground maintenance facilities and new access and parking arrangements. The application is brought back to committee as an element has changed, and it's felt that members should be made aware of this before a decision is issued. A decision hasn't been issued on the basis that we were waiting for a Section 106 agreement to be signed, which hasn't been resolved yet, so it's pending the issue of a decision. As previously indicated, Syngenta Sports and Social Club use some of the facilities at the site. If this proposal is implemented, then those facilities would no longer be available to Syngenta. It was originally envisaged that replacement facilities would be provided about 500 metres away to the north-east at the Leeds Road Sports Centre, and that would then be available for the Syngenta Sports Social Club to use. However, for the reasons I've outlined in the updated committee report, it's highly unlikely that this can now be achieved. Consequently, the applicant has made alternative arrangements to allow members of the Sports and Social Club to use upgraded facilities at Mould Green Conservative Club. I can put that into context on this plan, this aerial photograph here. This area is the PPG Canal site, which is currently used by the Sports and Social Club. This here is the site where it was envisaged those new facilities would be provided, and Mould Green Conservative Club is down here. It's about 2 kilometres to the south of the existing facilities. The details of the proposed development at the PPG Canal site remain unchanged, so they're exactly the same as were presented to committee back in March. It's recommended, under the circumstances, that members delegate this back to officers for the issuing of a decision notice in order to complete the list of conditions which are included in the report, and to secure a Section 106 agreement to formally link the closure of the existing Syngenta facilities to the provision of the upgraded facilities at Mould Green Conservative Club. Thank you, Chair.
We've got one speaker, which is Josh Halliwell, agent.
Sit down. Yeah. Thanks for letting me speak. I spoke last time to you guys when it came to committee previously, as well as the pre-app that we did with you guys. I'm not going to do a formal speech because, as Glenn said, the particulars of the scheme remain unchanged. Just wanted to give a bit more context as to why we're at where we are. The decision to not have these additional facilities at Leeds Road Sports Complex is not one that has been taken lightly. It's not one that has been a decision that has been made because of a lack of desire to do so. The reality is that an application was submitted. There was an objection from the co-authority. We provided additional information to try and placate that, to try and get around that. It wasn't sufficient, as there are two mine shafts close to the existing building from the old coal, from when it was used coal mining, of which there is no real record of in terms of precise location and if they weren't capped. A significant amount of exploratory works were undertaken by the club to a tune of quite a considerable sum to try and establish what remediation would be necessary to get to where we needed to be. The reality was that the works that would be needed were substantial, into the hundreds of thousands, in addition to the tens of thousands spent getting to where we were. Hence the decision has been made that that would not prove a viable outcome to pursue. This also, without going too much detail, raises actual concerns as to whether the existing complex building should have been erected in its entirety as it has. In relation to the move to more green, this has not been something that the football club have done in isolation. This has been through discussions with existing members of STEM Sports and Social Club, to the point where they're in agreement of the move, as are More Green Conservative Club. Further to this, they've provided a list of modernisation works, upkeeping works, maintenance works to the existing facilities there, so that for the foreseeable future, those will meet the standards and access requirements that the Gender Sports and Social Club need. In reality, as is detailed in the document that I have provided to the case officer, the likelihood is that the level of, in terms of the bowling green, will reach a standard that was never achievable at the Kirklees Canal site in any event. So the members are generally there in support of this move, and I would employ you to follow the officer's recommendations, and then I get the staff members happy to answer any questions or queries that you guys may have as well. Thank you.
Members.
Yeah, Chair. Actually, I'm supporting this application, no doubt at all, because we get benefit of it. And although it will increase the number of people employed by the Kirklees Association there, but still, I think it's something is like a tourism attraction. Yeah. Well designed design of the association. I've already seen this morning on the BBC North. They say they were expected to approve this application, with put the Kirklees on the map with this approved application. So one thing I'm not happy with that. The social club moving to More Green, which is 2 miles away from there. Do these people or members who attend this social club at the moment, they have been consulted or they agreed with this one? Because I think that most of the people going in at the moment, and this social club might be employees of the nearby chemical.
Yeah, for sure. No, I appreciate that, and I can appreciate how that's how it would appear. Now, as of 2019, the renewals for this, what is actually called the Huddersfield Recreation Club, which is the old Centre, you've got a total of 194 members that would be looking to be replaced with More Green. That's 55 kind of social members, bowlers are 28, snooker 26, honorary members 68, and non-founder bowlers a further 17. Now, the club will be entering into a legal agreement with not the one referred to by the officers, a separate legal agreement with both the Gender Sports and Social Club and More Green to provide the reassurances that all of the list of changes and enhancements to More Green Conservative Club are provided, and they are obliged to do that. That extends to things like anything from modernisation of the catering facilities at this place to also the provision of additional car parking. On that basis, we have in writing already the club's amenability and acceptance of moving to More Green. In reality, given the timescales that the club want to move to the training ground, the move to More Green facilitates a swifter transition in terms of the bowling seasons, whereby there may have been an issue in the transfer to Leeds Road during the construction, whereby they may have been unable to fulfil their fixtures. So yeah, they are on board. They are being spoken to regulate. They are the ones that put forward all the stuff that likes to be changed, and we're going to be bound to doing that at the football club.
Yeah. So once a member minded to approve this application today, yeah, you have any time scale when they're going to start the work at the fields?
So the works at the training ground or the works at Moore Green?
No, training.
Yeah, very soon. I think they've got a phased approach and stuff that they'd like to see done. A lot of it is enabling works. So one of the buildings is an energy centre. The training ground at the moment works at basically its capacity in terms of the electricity that it can take. So the enhancement works to facilitate all of the new building will be undertaken as soon as we can discharge the relevant conditions that Kirklees will apply. And then other things such as the viewing stand in the main building will come once those enabling works have happened. But the club want to see this done fairly swiftly. It's an element of the football club that they need to modernise.
Thank you.
Is it, I'm asking our officers actually, is it correct to say that this wouldn't go ahead if they couldn't find another club for the Syngenta to go to?
It is a very important material consideration to replace the original.
Thank you. So, to enable that, obviously, then they've shopped around, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, shopped around trying to get somewhere to accept this club. And I'm not against this. I'm seriously not against it. I think it's a good development. But in actual fact, what I don't like is that obviously they're pushing these members out as far as 2.5 miles or whatever to get away from this. And I have to say to you, I've been in development a long, long time, and to turn around and say it's over £100,000 to cut these shafts, I think is a bit ridiculous, to be quite honest with you. It's nowhere near that sort of money, unless there's some something really wrong there. And as you say, I think the previous developments are very, very close to it anyway. And there's other issues there. So I'm not really worried. I think it's been a little bit disingenuous. I don't know what the financial accommodation is between the two, because obviously either you're buying this office in Genter or whatever. I'd like to know what the financial impact is as far as money going into Moore Green Club. What is the total value of the amount of money? You'll say there's a Section 106 to be signed as yet, but we don't know the value of that. So we're being asked to accept that to enable us to be able to accept the application. So I think the information should be before us before we can make that decision, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, so in response to that, I can only refute suggestions of being disingenuous. The Coal Authority have seen sight of where the indicative locations of these shafts are, and the severe instability that go around them, which, as you've commented, include portions of the existing structure. So we've been searching through, talking to members at Kirklees Council to find out how this wasn't dealt with 17, 18 years ago when it was built. Because, take my word for it, if these plans are put forward to them now, the Coal Authority would have rejected to the existing structure. In relation to the amount of funds that will be put forward by the club, obviously, as you can appreciate, I'm a planning agent. I work for a consultancy that have been led on behalf of the club. What the club has provided to me is a list of all of the things that Moorgreen Conservative Club and Syngenta want changing to that facility. That list has been provided and shared with officers so they know what amendments are going to be made to that facility. In terms of the physical cost associated with all of those, that has been shared between the Syngenta and Conservative Club and the club, not with myself, but the list of what modifications will be made is or should be available to you if you were to request it from officers.
Can I ask that is added to the decision notice prior to?
We could put in the Section 106 the specific things that Moore Green and the club have agreed to re-provide, so it's explicit what those wouldn't be a cost, but it would be those natures of those works. We could add that into
I think that's only fair on both sides.
It gives clarity.
As I said as well, as much as I have no objection to that, that in itself will be subject to another legal agreement anyway. So if that is the case, as I understand, then they shouldn't have any objection to also being included in the agreement with the council. So as far as I'm concerned, that would be fine.
Can I just ask another question, Chair? And that's really, obviously this is a massive development, and it's a good development for Huddersfield. It's really supportive of it. Is there access at all by the old Syngenta club members to this new facility?
No, is the short answer. So one thing that's worth noting, and it's in no way meant to sound in terms of, it's a rock and hard place for Syngenta Sports and Social Club, but the reality is, as much as it is a material consideration to this application, the club's requirement to accommodate for the Syngenta Sports and Social Club is linked to an agreement between them when it was purchased by the club, or the body that represented the club. That has an expiry, and it runs out in, I think it's either 2021 or 2022. So the reality is that if the application wasn't to be supported and the facilities remained as is, it would only be so for a few more years.
It's quite strange that they said that that's material, and to be quite honest with you, we've dragged it out of you a little bit. But that should have been, to me, that would have certainly turned my mind to say, well, you get it anyway in 2 years' time or whatever. So
they would potentially leave in 2 years' time without a home deposit. Yeah.
No, that's fine. That's okay. Thank you.
Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd like to support what Councillor Kane was saying about the Section 106, including this information. And I think that it's important from all sorts of points of view, because a move to Mould Green is one of the things that enables this development to happen. I know it's essentially second best, but given the problem with capping mine shafts, then probably no choice. So I would like to back that up. I don't know whether we got to the point of moving that officer's recommendation.
That's fine now, Andrew, if you want to pull that forward.
I would move the officer's recommendation, unless Councillor Socko has already done it.
Anybody else? Right, that's what we've got in front of us. I think it's one of these things where good things coming out and bad things, and hopefully everybody should be happy. So, all those in favour, please show. That is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Next, page 25. And this is Nickel Road, Aided, over there. John.
Thank you, Chair. My name is John Ritchie. Excuse me. I'm a planning officer. The application before you is to the rear of the residential development, which is currently being developed off Dunford Road, which is the area in blue on the plan. The application is for full planning permission for 2 surface water soakaway basins with an access track. The site was previously open grassland, excuse me, and is partly used as a construction compound for the residential development. Part of the proposal, you can see from the plan there, is to landscape the area upon completion of the works. The proposal is an alternative scheme to a plan agreed at the planning application stage, which was for 6 concrete ring soakaway chambers to the right of the site there, each individual property having its own soakaway. Just some photographs of the site there. This is taken looking towards the west. So Snittle Road is on the left, Dunford Road and the houses in course of construction to the right, and the 2 white silos and the blue buildings of the construction This is Sniffle Road looking up towards the site. Again, the two white silos will be the focus there to show where the site is. Snittle Road being a largely unsurfaced road. Again, closer to the site there. And this is looking at the site directly in front of it. You can see the earthworks. That will all be, where the earthwork is there, is where the basins will be. And then beyond it, back towards the site, will be grassland with landscaping to the boundaries. Again, just working the way further up the site, so looking at it from the other direction. And this is the view inside the site, looking back towards the location. Sustainable drainage is the preferred method in the local plan and national planning policy, and is required by the condition of the planning permission. The site's in Greenbelt. Development above ground would be inappropriate, but would cause minimal harm. It's not high profile development. And officers consider that harm is outweighed by the benefits of sustainable drainage to the development. We'll see from the update that confirms that there are no objections from consultees, and there's nothing further to add, Chair.
We've got one speaker, Nigel Patrick. Nigel.
Thank you, Chair.
Where's Donald?
Sorry?
Where's Donald?
That's it. Kitty's not here. We've had a lot to add. I've spoken to some of the residents, and they've not had the letter that it's reported to have said they've had in their report. So I don't know what happened to the letter. So they were unaware of this planning application. Condition 10 of the approved permission on page 27 of the officer's report says a scheme demonstrating adequately designed soakways for an effective means of drainage of surface water on the site shall be submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority before works to construct the foundations of any dwellings commence. 2 years later, 34 houses built, 6 occupied, and another 14 with sold signs on them, and the drainage has not been agreed. Why not? Well, it's not being done because the developer's not done it, and because the local planning authority has not taken enforcement action. Not long after the developer started on site, adjoining land flooded. This was reported to the local planning authority officers, and they did nothing. Eventually, after further floods, officers, it seems, agreed temporary measures, but these do not work. The land still floods. In the Home Valley, we are very concerned, very much aware of flooding, river floods as well as surface water floods. Kirklees Council is supposed to be concerned about flooding, as are the West Yorkshire Councils, but it seems when it comes to delivery, we don't seem to do a very good job of it. This committee gave officers through delegation the responsibility to impose conditions, and that was not done. Officers are now asking you to once again delegate approval to them. The recommendations on page 26 says to delegate approval to the head of planning and head of development master plan in order to complete a list of conditions, including those contained within this report. The condition on page 33 includes to give the developer another 3 years to commence. It also says under paragraph 11.2 to delegate officers the ability to amend the plans before you. In other words, like writing the plan check, committee agrees to allow officers to do what they see fit without further reference to this committee. If the committee approves the drainage scheme before you today and it fails, the council will have to foot the bill for any damages arising from flooding. We've seen the land up there. That was a green field. At Reserve Matters, a very senior officer told me this land could not be used for drainage. It was outside the site and in the green belt, and it must not be touched, I was told. No sooner had the developer moved on site, this field was stripped of its topsoil and used as a storage area and access road without any planning permission whatsoever. What did officers do about it? Nothing. Only when pressed by ward councillors was the alternative access used less, and I say less, they didn't stop it. So that green field should have stayed as a green field. It should not have silos on it. No stop notices served as far as I know. Condition 4 is to landscape and have an ecological management plan. Well, the ecology was destroyed and restricted, so what's the plan all about? I wanted this to come to committee so committee can see what a mess the local planning authorities made of this site with no planning control. It's annoyed me because we've been on with this for a long time, over this 2-year period, and it's been like banging our heads against the wall. And some of you are going to get housing developments in the near future, and if the officers don't get it right, you're going to be in the same place as me, and it's not very good. The developer has simply been allowed to do what he wants. Under paragraph 10.21, it says the LLFA have asked for a section 106 agreement to secure the long-term maintenance of the drainage scheme. What is long-term? The applicant has agreed to this provided there are no further financial requirements. It says in the report, the applicant will use a private management company financed by the future residents. In other words, the residents will pay, not the developer. Half the houses are built and half of them are sold. Have they signed up to this? Or is it just the ones that are not sold that are going to end up paying for it? It's not clear. So I would say buyer beware, what is and LPA beware. Is this going to be another thing that is not going to happen? In order for this to be effective, there has to be enforcement action, and so far there's been none. What assurances can the head of development give to this committee to prove that from now on planning control will take place and that the works will prevent flooding? I agree with Councillor Firth that the proposed scheme will not work and alternatives should be looked at. This is the cheapest option for the developer, not necessarily the best for the locality. And I'll just finish off by saying, please do not simply agree what is before you in the hope that it will solve the problems. I don't think it will. I think any decision should insist on planning control and strong enforcement action, with any changes reported back to this committee and not delegated to officers. Thank you.
Councillor Keane.
I'm assuming that there is a management agreement with the residents. Is that correct?
Yeah.
A management agreement will be set up with a legal agreement that lasts in perpetuity. The new residents will pay into a scheme that is then maintained by a private company to maintain the grass areas and the drainage. The time that implements is for us to decide in the conditions, so it doesn't have to be at 6 houses, it can be at the last house, so the developer is liable until the management company takes over the responsibility of the drainage. So they have that control all the way through until there's enough quantum of development to make the management sustainable.
I think there's a fair comment being raised by Councillor Patrick about all praise for it. I don't think there's an issue there. And I think what you just said is quite correct in that it should be imposed on the last property rather than the first, because then everybody that's coming in is paying. I think up to that point, up to actually, and the actual fact, and leaving the land in a decent condition. Once that is all completed, then the cost should apply to the incoming residents, and I think that's only fair. What I'm concerned about is that we haven't got a drainage officer here to fully explain the situation, because I've no doubt, I'm fairly sure that it will work, and it's not contradicting what Councillor Patrick says. I'm pretty sure it will. They will have had some engineers in to design it. Well, in actual fact, the layman at this table, I think it should be explained a little bit better, because under 7.4, if you look at page 29, it says even the Old Parish Council objective proposal has no technical data. Has that technical data been supplied?
John, can you answer on the technical equation? I'll come back on the wider point if that's okay.
Yeah, through you, Chair, as I understand it, the soakaway data was submitted at the planning application stage. We'll see.
But the design has changed, John, hasn't it?
Pardon?
The design in somewhat's changed.
Well, the design is, there was no design at the planning application stage. It was purely those blue chambers. When this application first came in, the design of the two soakaway basins was slightly different, and they were moved more towards the development. So the latest plan that we've got is slight, I suppose, cosmetic and location change. But I've not seen any data to back up that chair for the reasons why I
Can you not defer this, Chair, and get this information? I think, I think we should have a drainage officer here as well.
Yeah.
I think to explain the situation and whether it is going to work. As I say, I don't think I have any doubt that it will work. I think, but without the technical data and all the other information, I think the other points that I've raised, I think pertinent, and we should look at adding that to the report when the report comes back, Matthias, if possible. But I'd move that we defer this for the next meeting. It's only 4 weeks.
Andrew?
Thanks, Chair. Yes, I'll second that. I'd also like the issues that Councillor Patrick raised about using this land to be investigated, because this site is outside the red line of the original application.
It was shown on the approved plan that there was a soakaway in that. Look, we've got the approved plan that you approved.
Sorry, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking its use as a storage shed.
Well, you can, under permitted development for construction activities in land adjacent to a construction site for a temporary period, you can use it for construction. You have to return it after,
to its original, right.
But it's permitted development for construction
Fair
activity.
enough. Thank you, but I would certainly like to.
We will give you chapter and verse.
I would definitely like to second that, because there's too many loose ends here. We need more information about how it is exactly going to work, because we're not drainage officers. We can't be expected to understand all of these things, other than the fact that water tends to run downhill.
And there is a hierarchy that says for the disposal of surface water, if you can percolate, drain away naturally, you should do it. You shouldn't pipe and discharge into sewers.
This is a relatively flat site, so
the top of.
Anyway.
Can we also have some information about remediation works post-contract as well?
Yeah.
In terms of the making good of the construction site? Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
That's all.
So this has been proposed to be deferred by Councillor Kane, seconded by Councillor Pinnock. Those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. Next, we're on page 35. Great, Adam, ready when you are.
Thank you, Chair. Adam Walker, the case officer on this application. This application was deferred at the last committee meeting on the 1st of August. That was to give the applicant a chance to come back with a business plan so that the viability of the business could be assessed. Also to review the permanency of the proposed warden's accommodation and provide details of the maintenance of the culvert running through the site. Just as a quick recap, this is an aerial photograph of the site which members visited a few weeks ago. So the camping pods would be set here, just next to this large pond, and the warden's accommodation would be located close to the access. This just shows a site plan of the development. So it's located off Blacksite Lane in Home Firth. There's a couple of fishing ponds which you can see on here,
camping pods, and then the warden's accommodation and a shower block. It's washed over as greenbelt, and the site was previously used as an angling facility. Just to quickly show you that's what the tents would look like. So the safari style tent set on a low timber deck. Each tent would sleep up to 4 people. And then that's the warden's accommodation, which is in there, two bed property, and the shower block adjoining it. That would be timber clad and set on sleepers. So at the last meeting, some members of the committee questioned whether there was an essential need for a dwelling, and there were concerns raised around whether the 4 camping pods amounted to a viable business plan to justify the dwelling. The applicant considers it essential for there to be a permanent presence on the site for security and to manage the facilities. Financial information has been provided by the applicant, which members have a copy of. And as concluded in that private paper, there is nothing to indicate that this is not a viable business model.
It was sent out yesterday. I've got them copies.
So I haven't written mine up, so I can look like you.
So the warden's accommodation and shower block is intended as a temporary building. It's constructed on sleepers, and there will be a condition requiring its removal in the event that the camping use ceases. And having considered all the information, officers remain of the opinion that the warden's accommodation can be justified on the basis that it's associated with appropriate development within the green belt, namely a facility for recreation, and that there is an essential need for a permanent presence on the site in this case. This is subject to control over the building's removal if it was no longer connected with the camping enterprise on the site. The recommendation remains for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Alan. First speaker, Jeremy Child.
Good afternoon, committee. Application was brought with you before, and my colleague Hamish presented it, and members, after some debate, obviously directed from the 3 items that Adam's mentioned, to do with the maintenance of the culvert, the dam, and the sort of the warden's accommodation. In the update or in the report, it's satisfactory in terms of that. The business plan which you have before you, I couldn't actually comment on in terms of levels of what people will pay for such facilities. The client is here and happy to answer any questions that members might have on that. Just chatting on the way up, you mentioned 3 or 4 similar ventures in other authorities that are very, very successful for anglers, and looked at comparables in terms of the rates, and the figures that are reported show a very slow build up to a 70% occupancy over a period of time. And what will actually sort of happen if this is allowed to go ahead is that woodland will be maintained, the culvert and the liability of the dam wall. If it doesn't pass or doesn't survive, everything's to be removed and it's back to sort of where it is now. So the thrust of what I'm members to do is to get behind the officer's recommendation and give this venture a chance. Dave, the client Dave Truman's here if members have any questions on the financial liability aspect. Thank you.
Do you want to say anything? Yeah.
Okay, I have nothing outside what Jeremy said. I was going to stay today, asked you to answer any questions or concerns that the council have on the project.
Right. I know you've got those papers just on you just now. We have an option of moving into private session. Do you wish to do that? No?
Self-explanatory. No, I think it gives us enough information here.
Please. That's down to you then, councillors. Any questions, comments?
Can I just ask, right, I was fairly both on this stand. Can I just ask one question in particular on Adam really? Are we confident that we have got total control of this? Should this business
cease?
Yeah, I've discussed it with the enforcement team lead, and its feeling is that it is it's an enforceable condition, so it meets that test. Maybe useful to word it so that there was, if the camping use ceased for a period of time, so for a number of months, say, then.
Well, you're answering my second point, Adam. What is the trigger point? What would be the trigger point as to whether this is successful or not?
Well, we've got flexibility on that. Maybe.
I don't think we should have flexibility because enforcement is not good when we've got flexibility.
I agree with you. You need to be very precise on what ceased, the term
100%.
cease means, and from that time that you define it ceased to giving them a reasonable time to regenerate the business, to then that's it.
Yeah.
So it is precision. Precision is really important.
Yeah.
And that's something to agree with the applicant as well, because clearly we don't want it to be challenged.
Yeah. Well, we don't want to be having to go to court and whatever. I'm not being disrespectful to you, sir. I'm really not. The opportunity is to have a property in the green belt, and if that ceases, you could still maintain that property. I don't think that's what we are here to do. We're here to actually control development, and I think that is what we're trying to do. Now, whether we negotiate this over this table or whatever, I don't think that's fair.
It's up to you whether you want us to bring back a fully worded condition, or whether you're comfortable that we will be precise and we will brief ward members.
I think the brief ward members there, and they will get any issues or problems from that. As long as you can send on the condition to members of the committee, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
And I'm quite happy to move it with them conditions.
I think condition 3 needs to have some wording which says the land reinstated in the event that the approved camping use has ceased for, and then fill in the blank, within a period of time, and that presumably needs to be agreed between the planning authority and the applicant as to what an appropriate length of time is for no activity happening on the site.
Clearly it needs to be given an opportunity to regenerate the business, but if it doesn't happen, it can't go on forever and a day. So you need to do, did you say 3 months, 6 months? It's that type of time frame.
6 months is a
reasonable.
I think we're not in the position. I think it's fair to negotiate. Chair, I'm happy to go with that condition.
Right. And so this was attached condition has been moved by Councillor Kane. Okay.
So we'll circulate that before the decision notice is issued for final clarity, so members have seen what's agreed, and we'll brief ward members as well at that time.
Those in favour, please show. Unanimous. Those offended.
Is it anonymous?